The film opens with a scene of Heinrich rushing through the forests of Germany in 1945, the sound of gunfire ringing out behind him as the heavy footsteps of Nazi soldiers grow closer. Heinrich runs across muddy trails until he finds a hiding spot behind a fallen tree. Then, he fires back, the bullet grazing and tearing Sergeant Doff's earlobe. But shortly after, Heinrich slips and falls into a shallow ravine where he is captured by the German forces. In front of the fellow officers, General Sternfeld sternly called out Heinrich's name, accusing him of cowardice and treason for deserting Germany, an act deemed unforgivable in the chaotic final days of the war. Heinrich believed that the Nazis were the embodiment of evil, and the war they waged was entirely unjustifiable. For 6 years, they had slaughtered countless innocent civilians, a barbaric act that could not be accepted. Realizing that Heinrich refused to bow his head in guilt, they decided to execute him by hanging, leaving him to die silently and in disgrace. But fortunately, Elsa, a local farmer, appeared just in time. She quickly cut the rope and took him back to her home, where he could receive care. After waking up from his stupor, Heinrich found himself in a small, cozy house. There, Elsa lived with her brother Paul, a young man with Down syndrome, but with kind and warm eyes. One morning, Sternfeld and his team visited a small village where he met Mayor Robert Schlisch to learn about the Jewish Lowenstein family. When asked, Robert explained that the family had been expelled by the villagers 7 years ago. He led Sternfeld to the house that once belonged to the Lowenstein family, but all that remained were ruins. The house had been destroyed and burned down by the villagers themselves after they looted the belongings of those who once lived there. Afterward, Robert invited Sternfeld and his team to stay at his hotel. Robert brought wine and some food to Sternfeld, and he didn't refuse due to the hunger and exhaustion from the long journey. As they began to talk, Sonia, a resident of the village, approached, quickly guessing the real reason the Nazis were searching the house. They were looking for hidden gold. Sonia tried to convince Robert to leave the village with her, to abandon everything and start a new life elsewhere. But Robert firmly refused, citing that he still had to take care of his child. Disappointed and angry, Sonia left in silence, calling Robert a coward for not facing the truth. Heinrich asked Elsa why she risked her life to save him. Elsa explained that she hated the Nazis because they had kidnapped and killed her father. She stayed in the village not out of duty, but to protect her weak brother, Paul, from their cruel hands. She feared that one day they would take Paul away, forcing him to fight in a war he couldn't understand and wouldn't survive. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the village, Sternfeld ordered the soldiers and locals to completely destroy the house that once belonged to the Lowenstein family. They ransacked every corner, hoping to find the rumored hidden gold that had supposedly been concealed since the war. Dürler brought important news. The Allied forces had advanced deep into German territory and advised the group to retreat to a safe boundary before it was too late. Despite the warning, Sternfeld remained calm. Instead of following Dürler's advice, he ordered him to focus on gathering supplies. Deep down, Sternfeld believed they still had enough time to continue searching for the gold stash he believed was hidden somewhere in the ruins of the past. Before leaving, Heinrich sincerely thanked Elsa for saving and taking care of him. But at that moment, Elsa admitted that she truly needed him. She pleaded with him to stay, at least until his wounds had fully healed. Heinrich looked at her with a wistful gaze. He wished he could stay and help, but he had to go meet his daughter, the child he hadn't seen in 6 years. Paul anxiously pointed toward the dirt road. Heinrich followed his gaze and immediately recognized that the approaching truck belonged to the German army. Dürler ordered the soldiers to seize Paul's chickens, which infuriated Elsa. Unable to remain silent, she appeared with a gun in hand, her eyes filled with anger. Confronting the Nazi soldiers, Elsa loudly declared that she needed the chickens to survive too, and they had no right to take anything more from her family. Paul burst into tears, his eyes welling up as he watched the chickens being driven further away. Dürler followed Elsa and Paul into the house, beginning to mock Paul for his Down syndrome. When he suddenly snatched Elsa's necklace, she erupted in anger and quickly tried to reclaim the precious item. The Nazi soldiers then began attacking Paul's sister. As Paul attempted to help Elsa, he was quickly chased out of the house by Durler, who, along with his crew, began plotting to take advantage of the defenseless woman. After witnessing the Nazis' brutal treatment of Elsa in the attic, Heinrich felt he couldn't stand idly by. He emerged from his hiding spot, startling the soldiers. He bravely faced the danger. Durler attempted to attack Heinrich, but Elsa quickly grabbed some hot water from the table and poured it into his pants. Burned! Durler screamed in pain and panicked, running away. He tried to escape in a truck. Heinrich left the house, raised his gun, and shot at the enemy, while Elsa bravely shielded him from the attack of the Nazi soldiers. Just then, Emer appeared from the chicken coop, providing timely support. Realizing that the Nazi soldiers would return to capture them, Heinrich decided they had to get Elsa and Paul out of the house. They quickly gathered weapons and silently made their way through the forest, ready to face the challenges ahead. Suddenly, Paul wanted to go back because he had to take care of his cow. Elsa quickly warned Paul that if he returned home, both he and the cattle would be in danger. Meanwhile, Durler was receiving medical care at the hotel. He informed Starfel that Heinrich was still alive and vowed to come back, determined to kill them all. Elsa tried to comfort Paul, advising him to rest since he was still worried about his cow. They decided to sleep by the campfire in the forest. During their conversation, Heinrich expressed his concern that his daughter might not recognize him, as he had only seen her once since she was born. The next morning, Elsa discovered that Paul was missing. It turned out that the Nazi soldiers had captured him when he returned to the barn to milk the cow. They tortured Paul and forced him to reveal the whereabouts of Heinrich and Elsa. When Paul refused to provide any information, Durler killed his cow and burned down his house to the ground. Elsa, in panic, ran down the hill, screaming loudly from a distance, implying that the Nazi soldiers had kidnapped her brother. Heinrich was determined to bring Paul back. Meanwhile, Sternfeld ordered his men to go pick up the mayor and bluntly questioned him about the location of the hidden gold bars. As the soldiers were dismantling the house without finding anything, Sternfeld was certain that the Jewish family had hidden the gold bars in the house. Filled with anger over the town's residents' disobedience, Sternfeld decided to hang Paul in front of everyone to spread fear. He believed this would force them to be afraid and obey his orders. The Nazis wasted no time punishing the priests to prevent resistance and impose a brutal sentence on them. Elsa and Heinrich arrived at the church just as Paul was being taken to the top of the bell tower for execution. As two Nazi soldiers mocked and called him a fool, Paul couldn't contain his anger. He pushed one soldier off the tower and then shot the other one dead. Everyone panicked and tried to escape, but Paul lost control and kept firing at the Nazi soldiers at the base of the tower. Sternfeld shot Paul right in the tower, causing him to fall and die instantly. Elsa cried over the loss of her brother, but she still believed that the secrets would eventually find their way to them, so she had no choice but to leave immediately. She no longer had time to grieve. As she descended from the tower, Elsa unexpectedly encountered Sternfeld on the road. She attacked him, but her gun was out of bullets. Sternfeld didn't shoot back. It seemed as though he loved her. At that moment, her Heinrich rushed up to the top of the tower, responding to the Nazi soldiers' attempts to attack. He threw a grenade, instantly wiping out a group of soldiers who had been following him. During the conflict at the tower, Heinrich realized that he had run out of ammunition in his rifle and found himself surrounded. Under heavy gunfire from the Nazi forces below, he threw his last grenade and then jumped from the tower roof to the adjacent building. There, he encountered the soldier Dorfler, who was armed. The two engaged in a brutal, bloody fight, only stopping when they managed to escape the building. Just as Heinrich was about to execute Dorfler, a sudden airstrike from Allied fighter planes hit the village, providing Dorfler with an opportunity to escape. Afterward, he ordered his men to return and capture Heinrich, but by then he had vanished. Hera discovered that Heinrich was badly wounded and hiding in her house. She gave him a special medicine to heal his injuries. While Heinrich stayed behind to receive treatment, the priest appeared again. Heinrich asked him about the situation and why the Nazi forces had come to the Lochstein house. The priest explained that the Nazis were searching for gold. Mayor Robert had gone down to the basement to meet with his two friends. By then, they had learned the exact location of the gold, but Robert was concerned about the safety of his family and decided to inform Sternfeld. At that moment, Sonia suddenly threw a shovel at Robert, causing him to fall to the ground. It turned out that Sonia had no intention of sharing the gold and immediately ordered Robert's execution to take all of it. Elsa was in the same room with Sternfeld, and he declared that she resembled his former lover, the one he couldn't marry because she was Jewish. For that reason, he had chosen to kill his girlfriend to prevent anyone from sending her to the concentration camp. Sternfeld removed the ring from his injured eye, then bent down and placed it on Elsa's finger, swearing that he would always protect her forever. The priest told Heinrich about the Lowenstein family, a respected Jewish family living in the area. However, driven by the horrific genocide committed by Hitler against the Jews, Robert decided that the Lowenstein family should share the same fate. While the riot was unfolding, Sonia and her friends went to the Lowenstein family's house, setting it on fire and stealing the gold bars. However, when they returned to collect the treasure, they found nothing but a book in the chest instead of gold. It turned out that the priest had stolen the treasure and hidden it in the church. Heinrich, seeing an opportunity, convinced the priest to hand over the gold to Sternfeld in order to save Elsa. When Elsa discovered that Sternfeld was asleep, she couldn't help but be curious and notice the ring on his finger. Elsa realized that the ring contained a poison capsule, and without hesitation, she forced the pill out, making it fall to the ground. After finding the pill, Elsa placed it in her mouth and pretended to kiss Sternfeld. As she leaned in, she quickly shoved the pill into his mouth and punched him hard in the face. The pill took effect immediately, causing Sternfeld to die on the spot. Meanwhile, Sonia and her friends eventually discovered that it was the priest who had taken the gold. Without hesitation, she struck him with a shovel before kidnapping him. Finally, Dörfler discussed the situation with his squad. Heinrich threw a gold bar into Dörfler's face and clearly stated that he would hand over all the gold if they released Elsa. Dörfler hurried to meet Sternfeld to deliver the good news. But when he arrived, he received no response and found the door to the room tightly locked. When he broke in, Dörfler saw that Elsa was not in the room, while Sternfeld lay dead on the floor. Dörfler had decided to take command after ensuring that Sternfeld had swallowed his cyanide capsule. He relentlessly accused Sternfeld of being a coward, trying to escape before the battle had even begun. Then, Dörfler tricked Heinrich by pretending to prepare for a trade to release Elsa. He then threw an explosive grenade, knocking Heinrich unconscious. Elsa heard the blast and immediately ran to Irmgard's house, where she asked about Heinrich's whereabouts. Irmgard replied that he had gone into the building. The maid, surprised but eager, was ready to help her look through the weapons collection. Elsa quickly armed herself and prepared to fight the Nazi army to rescue Heinrich. At the same time, Sonia and her friends had defeated the priest. While interrogating him, the priest unexpectedly revealed the location of the gold stash. Dörfler, furious, threatened to use brutal methods to kill Heinrich and his daughter if he didn't hand over the gold. When the priest led Sonia and her friends to the church to retrieve the gold, they were overjoyed to finally find it. However, they didn't know that Herd had set a trap, hiding a grenade in his chest. The grenade exploded immediately, killing Sonia's associates. Dörfler and his squad then entered the church and found that the priest still held the gold bars, now scattered everywhere from the blast. They acted quickly, determined to kill the priest so that no one could stop them. As Dörfler's men were ready to execute Heinrich, Elsa armed herself outside the church. She fired a rocket-propelled grenade at the building, collapsing it and blocking the entrance with debris. Irmgard, witnessing the priest's body on the ground, became furious. He used lethal ammunition to eliminate the Nazi soldiers attempting to break into the church. She stabbed Dörfler with a knife, and just before she could finish him off, she was shot in the shoulder by a Nazi soldier, causing her to fall. With the remaining strength she had, Elsa dragged herself behind a concrete wall and shot down a crane after spotting a Nazi soldier hiding behind the bell. She ultimately killed him. When Elsa realized that Dörfler was still alive and tried to shoot him, her rifle was out of ammo. He then knocked Elsa to the ground and began choking her. However, Heinrich unexpectedly attacked from behind and killed him with a piece of gold. Elsa and Heinrich didn't realize that another Nazi soldier was still alive, hiding behind the bell and claiming ownership of all the gold, watching them as they helped each other leave the church. Sonia, who turned out to still be alive, appeared and finished off the Nazi soldier. As Elsa and Heinrich left the building, Sonia gathered all the gold bars and rode her horse, listening to a radio broadcast announcing Germany's defeat in World War II. Suddenly, an Allied tank attacked, destroying her vehicle and killing her. When the soldiers approached the burning car, they discovered the scattered gold bars on the grass and realized that there was no need to hand the gold over to the state. The commander immediately assumed that it was a war prize they had won. Eventually, Heinrich took Elsa to Hogan, Germany, where he was overjoyed to be reunited with his daughter. The film ends here. Thank you for watching. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to catch more videos from me. Have a great day!